Hi, this is Narayan. I'm on the way to the Chola Triad temples in and around Thanjavur. This is a trip of the three famous UNESCO temples, all three built by the Cholas in the 12th century. The first one is the famous Brihadeeshwara temple in Thanjavur city itself. The second one is Dharasuram, about 40 kilometers from Thanjavur. And the third is Gangekonda Cholapuram. We are on our way to the Brihadeeshwara temple of Thanjavur from our hotel, which is a Sangam hotel. Nice place, quite decent, lots of car parks, and food was good last night. So now we are headed to the Brihadeeshwara temple, also known as the Big Temple, also known as the Peruvadayar temple. So it's just hardly a kilometer away from where we are. This temple was built by probably the greatest Chola king. He had conquered his traditional rivals, the Pandyas, down south in Madurai. He had also vanquished the Cheras to the west in modern day Kerala, as well as Western Chalukyas up north in today's Karnataka, and invading Sri Lanka and capturing their capital Anuradhapura. That's a victory monument, this temple that we are going to today. So he named it after himself. He called the temple Rajarajeswaram, but somewhere along the way, it became Brihadeeshwara temple. More of it when we reach there. There is quite an ample car park, one of the biggest tourist sites in Tamil Nadu. This is the gate of the Marathas. The one inside is Keralantakan, the defeat of the Cheras by Rajaraja. And further inside is the Rajarajan Tiruvasal. The unusual part of this temple is the moat surrounding this temple. Normally temples are sacred spaces, and it's the military fortresses that have moats around them to keep off the enemy. So that shows that this temple at some time must have served both the sacred as well as the military purpose. Quite unusual. We are just under the Maratha entrance, and now we come to the Keralantakan entrance, which celebrates the great king's victory over the Cheras. And you can even see further ahead the third entrance to the temple, which is called Rajarajan Tiruvasal. These Gopurams are deliberately smaller than the central one over the Sanctum, called the Vimana. So what is the difference between a Vimana and a Gopuram? A Gopuram is an entranceway. A Vimana is a similar pyramidal structure built over the inner sanctum, the main deity. We are now in the next Gopuram, which is the Rajarajan Tiruvasal. The Grand Nandi. This is a superb temple. Its scale is huge. This Vimana, which is built over the central sanctum, is 216 feet high. So it's stunning to think that 1,000 years ago, what coordination it must have taken to build this place in 7 years' time, which is pretty quick, and build it by getting the stone from probably 50 kilometers away or more, and the effort and time it must have taken to quarry, transport, cut, and assemble all the huge granite pieces. Amazing. The standing on the steps of the entrance to the main inner sanctum is the carving from a long time ago. There's a huge courtyard all around. It is absolutely worth a visit. The scale, the splendor, and everything that you can sense about the great Chola Empire is here made visible. What is noteworthy is that the capstone on top, called the Kumbam, the single piece alone weighs 80 tons. Now it's very difficult to imagine. It is believed that they ran a ramp. That ramp ran for about 6 kilometers west from here all the way back. Elephants pulling all the granite stones must have leisurely walked up that ramp with not a steep incline and taken it to the top. Another legendary part of the capstone says that Rajarajan got a dream about a certain huge stone that was there in the forest. The same dream was also got by a humble herder of cows and sheep, a lady in this village somewhere. Shiva came in the dream of a king and a commoner at the same time. He told them pretty much the same thing about that stone in the forest, which must be used as the capstone over there on top. We know the exact master builder, the architect of this entire construction. Normally, we attribute a building of a temple to a king, or we just mention it by the dynasty. The Pandyas built this, the Cheras built this. Here, we know exactly who built it. The master architect, somebody called Kunjara Mallan Rajaraja Perunthachan. And his name is carved here in stone for all of us to see 1,000 years later. And it also means he had the royal permission to do a thing like that. He must have been a big dignitary. He must have been extraordinarily talented to pull off a thing like this. Another popular legend, it is said that the master builder, Perunthachan, told the king, "Even the shadow will not fall, Raja," he said. By which he meant that this Vimana is constructed in such a way that its own shadow never falls to the ground. It's difficult to verify a thing like that on a uniformly cloudy day like this. A very oft repeated belief, but there has been no serious photographic evidence or something like that. So it's meant to be a sort of salute to the powers of Shiva, that it beats the laws of ordinary physics. Southwestern corner, there is a later edition by the Nayakas, a shrine for Subramanya or Kartikeya, son of Shiva, which architecturally is also distinct from the surrounding Chola style of building. There seems to be only one entry into the main temple premises, and that's only via the east, which has a series of those 3 entrance Gopurams, as against the normal custom of a temple being entered from all 4 sides, east, west, north and south. Here it's only from the east. That's the inner sanctum entrance. Obviously no cameras are allowed there, so I can't show you the Shiva shrine inside. But the priest told us while we were waiting for the curtain to be opened to reveal Shiva, that it's not so much about waiting for you to see Shiva, but when the curtain opens, Shiva gets to see you. Nice.
Very huge linga, well decorated. It is kind of unique in terms of its size and also the religious fervor that it brings over here.
Sides of the inner sanctum, the outer sides, are inscripted with a lot of detail in Old Tamil. This apparently lists every person that worked here. It is like having an attendance register of the people who work in your organization. All the people, their roles, and their names and everything was recorded here. Quite amazing for its time. So, it is said that the Brihadeeshwara temple is the most documented temple in the whole of South Asia, because everything is written down. I've been looking for that Perunthachan signature, which is supposed to be carved somewhere here, but I'm not sure if I can find it at all. We are now towards the back of the temple, the Vimana. It is quite stunning from any angle. This is the Ganesh shrine at the western end. This was built much later, in fact quite recently, about 100 or so years ago, the 19th century, by the Maratha king, Saraboji II. This temple, among other things, is also known as the southern Meru. Meru being the mountain further north from here, and in the Indian cosmology, Mount Meru is the center of the universe. When you take a walk around the temple premises, you're not just going around the Shiva temple, you're going around the universe. But We are looking at 1,000-year-old Chola art that still lives and possibly the only extant representation of Chola art at its best. There was a layer of paintings done by the Nayakas which had obscured it, but in 1931, someone had the inclination to dig deeper, literally, into the wall, and they scraped away the first surface, and they found these original paintings, mural art, done by the Cholas. So it's a pretty historic document. It's in a very dark place away from the main sanctum, but it's worth looking at. The shift of name from the original Rajarajeshwaram to today's Brihadeeshwara. The logic for the name change is pretty obvious. I mean, it's like to de-emphasize the human nature of the temple, celebrating the king who built it, and re-emphasizing on the right thing, which is Shiva as the hero of the temple in his form as Brihadeeshwara, the large lingam inside. The repeated theme of elephant in many Chola temples is interesting to observe, and normally they are on the side of steps leading up to a shrine somewhere, and here's one. And there is perhaps a yali turning back upon itself, a mythical creature. The Brihadeeshwara temple complex here is a UNESCO site, and that status was granted in 1987 as one of the great living Chola temples. The word living is important because, as you can see, people are here and the prayers continue pretty much as before, as the prayers used to be 1,000 years ago. So it's a living temple in the correct sense. It's been a series of continuous prayers being offered. It's not just a historical monument. This is a living temple in every sense. This is a pretty exquisitely carved horse, even to the untrained eye. Like I keep saying again and again, built over 1,000 years ago. There is one key feature of the capstone, the Kumbam as it's called. During Rajaraja's time, this capstone was plated in gold all round, which means in addition to an astounding, magnificent marvel of engineering, the people of that time must have also enjoyed the gleaming gold on top to make it even more marvelous. This was plundered and looted in later times, and it's difficult to know who did it. Historians and scholars have been unable to pinpoint who exactly did it, but we know for a fact that there was periodic warfares between Cholas and the Madurai sultans to the south. We may have our fingers pointing at some of those people because who did loot the temple in other forms later on, but we can't say with any certainty that they were responsible for taking the gold plating. But to take the gleam of what is an excellent construction seems like a disappointment seen in retrospect. It's one final look at the lasting legacy of the greatest of them all, the Rajaraja Cholan, from 2010, speaking to us today in 2026. This is Krishna Bhavan, maybe a few hundred meters away from the big temple. Seems like a nice place for breakfast. And there is car parking too. This looks quite interesting because you get bits of everything. You have pongal, you have an idli, you have an uttapam underneath that, you have a bonda, you have kesari, you have sambar, you have 2 kinds of chutneys, and you have sevai, the vermicelli thing. Quite a fascinating experience, a trip into history, architecture, murals, craftsmanship, and the sheer engineering marvel that it has been rightly praised for.